Sir!
She was running
Sir,
through the rain
please.
at 2 a.m., broke, exhausted, chasing down a man in a cashmere coat who just stepped out of a black
You dropped
sedan.
this.
In her hand,
Davis, the
a
dead
diamond necklace worth more than she'd make in 5 years. He turned around, saw her, saw the necklace, and his face just collapsed. His voice cracked. His hands were shaking.
Where did you find this?
On the floor in the store. It fell out of your coat.
He pressed it to his chest, closed his eyes, and whispered a name. Her name. She didn't understand. Not yet. Because the name engraved on that necklace, the name this billionaire had buried for 5 years, was a name she'd carried her entire life without knowing why it mattered. But before we get to that moment, before the rain, before the necklace, before everything changed, you need to understand who Denise Nelson was. And more importantly, what life had already put her through. Because this story doesn't start at a convenience store at 2 a.m. It starts 26 years earlier, in a hospital in Atlanta, where a baby girl was born to a mother who was already sick. A mother who named her daughter Denise, which means the one who chases joy, and then had to give her up before she could even walk. Denise never knew that. She never knew what her name meant. She never knew her mother's face, and she definitely never knew her father existed. All she knew was the system. 4 foster homes by the time she was 10. 4 different bedrooms. 4 different sets of rules. 4 families that kept her for a while and then didn't. Nobody hit her, nobody starved her, but nobody stayed either. And when you're a kid, that's its own kind of wound. The kind that doesn't bruise but never fully heals. At 18, she aged out of the system. That's the term they use. Aged out. Like she was expired milk. They gave her a handshake, a list of shelters, and $300 in cash. She walked out the front door of her last foster home with a backpack and a notebook with a fake leather cover. The only thing she took. That notebook? She still has it. And every night before she sleeps, she writes in it. Not a diary, not goals, not affirmations. Letters. To her mother. Short ones. The kind you write when you're talking to someone who can't hear you, but you keep talking anyway. Mom, today was long. I made $38 in tips. I bought a coffee. The good kind. I wished you liked coffee. Maybe you did. I don't know. Mom, I saw a dress in a magazine today. I could make that. I know I could. I just need a chance. She never sent them. Obviously. She didn't even know where to send them. But she wrote one every single night. For 8 years straight. That notebook was the only family she had. Now, let's talk about present-day Denise. She's 26. She lives in a basement studio apartment in Atlanta. $650 a month. Mold in the corner of the ceiling. Pipes that rattle all night like someone's tapping on the walls. One window, half underground, that looks out at people's ankles walking by on the sidewalk. But here's the thing about Denise. If you walked into that apartment, the first thing you'd see isn't the mold. It's the wall. She's covered one entire wall with a mood board, magazine cutouts of dresses, fabric swatches she collects from thrift stores, sketches, her own sketches, of gowns and jackets and silhouettes that look like they belong in a design studio, not a basement apartment with $650 rent. Her dream? Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD, fashion design program. Tuition, $38,000 a year. Her savings, $1,800. She's been saving for 3 years. The math doesn't work. She knows it doesn't work. But she keeps saving anyway. Because stopping would mean admitting this is all she gets. And Denise Nelson does not do that. During the day, she delivers food on a bicycle. 10 to 4, rain or shine, Atlanta heat or Atlanta cold. She averages 35 miles a day. Her legs burn by noon. Her phone mount is cracked. The app glitches half the time. But she knows every regular customer by name. There's an old man on the 5th floor of a building with no elevator. The app says, leave it in the lobby. Denise walks it up every time. Every single time. 5 flights. The old man always says, you're the kindest person I've ever met. Denise always laughs. You say that to all your delivery people. She doesn't know it yet, but that word, kindest, is going to follow her for the rest of this story. At night, she works the register at a convenience store called Quick Stop on Davis Avenue, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Her boss is a woman named Martha Coleman, 58, black, built like a linebacker, speaks in short sentences, and has never once told Denise she cares about her. But every night, without fail, there's a hot meal in a styrofoam box waiting behind the counter. Martha never says it's for Denise. She just says, "Eat, you're too skinny." That's Martha's love language. Denise's co-worker on the night shift is Janelle Brooks, 24, loud, loyal, always showing Denise TikTok videos of fashion shows during slow hours. "Girl, you're better than every single one of these designers. You just need one shot." Denise laughs and shakes her head, but her eyes light up every time she sees a beautiful design. Every single time. And in the quiet hours, between midnight and 3 a.m. when the store is empty and the only sound is the hum of the refrigerators, Denise pulls out her notebook. Not the letters this time, the other pages. The ones filled with sketches, dresses, jackets, a logo she drew herself. Nelson Stitch and Thread. Janelle peeks over her shoulder once. "That's fire!" Denise tears the page out, folds it, puts it in her pocket. Not good enough yet, but she doesn't throw it away. She never throws them away. What Denise didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that this ordinary Thursday night was about to become the last normal night of her life. And then, on the worst night of the week, the night the sky cracked open like it had something personal against Atlanta, she saw something glinting on the floor. And everything changed. Thursday, October, 2:10 a.m. Atlanta was getting hammered by a cold rain that had no business showing up this early in the fall. Wind sideways, streets empty, the kind of night where even the stray cats find shelter. Quick Stop was dead quiet, just the buzz of the fluorescent lights and the low hum of the coolers. Janelle was in the back room on her 15-minute break scrolling her phone. Denise was alone behind the register, sketching in her notebook. A sleeve design, long, tapered, with a fold at the wrist. She was almost happy. Then the door opened. The chime rang. A man walked in. White, tall, silver hair, late 60s maybe, wearing a long cashmere coat that probably cost more than Denise's rent for the whole year. But something was off. His eyes were red. His posture was wrong. Shoulders folded inward like he was carrying something invisible and heavy. He moved through the aisles slowly, not browsing, drifting. He picked up a bottle of water, a pack of tissues. His hands had a slight tremor, not dramatic, just enough to notice if you were paying attention. Denise was paying attention, not because she was suspicious, because that's who she was. She watched people the way a good nurse watches a patient, not for danger, but for pain. This man was in pain. He set the items on the counter, pulled out his wallet. His hands fumbled with the bills. As he reached for the cash, his coat shifted, just slightly, and Denise caught a glimpse of something inside. A small black velvet pouch tucked into his inner pocket. He didn't notice her noticing. $4.75, sir. He handed her a 20. Keep the change. His voice was hoarse, scraped, like he'd been talking too much or crying too long. Maybe both. Denise wanted to ask if he was okay. She opened her mouth, but he was already turning away, already pushing through the glass door, already stepping out into the rain. And that's when it happened. As he pushed the door open, the velvet pouch slipped from his inner pocket. It hit the tile floor right at the threshold. A soft sound, barely anything, swallowed by the chime of the door. He didn't hear it. He didn't feel it. He walked out into the dark and the rain and didn't look back. 3 seconds passed. Denise stared at the small black pouch on the floor. Then she moved. She came around the counter, picked it up. It was heavier than she expected. She loosened the drawstring and tilted it into her palm. A necklace. Not a regular necklace, not costume jewelry, not something you buy at a mall kiosk. This was, even Denise, who knew nothing about jewelry, could tell, this was real. A platinum chain. A teardrop pendant encircled by small diamonds that caught the fluorescent light and threw it back in tiny stars. The center stone was larger, clear, almost liquid in the way it reflected. She turned it over, and on the back of the pendant, engraved in thin italic script, was a name. Denise.
She stopped breathing.
She read it again, looked away, looked back, read it a third time. Denise, her name, on a diamond necklace, in the hand of a girl who'd never owned anything with her name on it. Not a birthday cake, not a Christmas stocking, not a door plate, nothing. For 1 second, one fraction of a second, a thought crossed her mind. Not greed, not scheming, just math. This necklace was worth, what, thousands? Tens of thousands? More? Enough for SCAD. Enough for everything. But the thought didn't land. It passed through her like a breeze through a screen door, because right behind it came a louder thought, the one that always won. That man is walking away, in the rain, and this isn't mine. It didn't matter that her name was on it. It didn't matter what it was worth. It didn't matter that she was broke and tired and hungry, and the math on her dream never worked. It wasn't hers. Denise shoved the pouch into her jacket pocket, turned toward the back room. Janelle, cover the register. Didn't wait for an answer, pushed through the glass door and ran. Outside, the rain hit her like a wall, cold, sharp, immediate. She could barely see past the streetlights. Davis Avenue at 2 a.m. was nothing but yellow light and black water. She looked left, empty, looked right, and there, maybe 50 meters down the sidewalk, a figure in a long, dark coat walking toward a black sedan with its hazard lights blinking. She ran. But what Denise didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that she wasn't just chasing a stranger. She was running toward the answer to a question she'd stopped asking a long time ago. She didn't know she was chasing one of the richest men on the East Coast. She just knew someone had lost something that mattered, and she was the only one who could give it back. Her sneakers slapped the wet sidewalk. Old shoes, worn soles, no grip. She slipped once, caught herself on a parking meter, and kept going. "Sir! Sir, wait!" The wind ate her voice. The rain swallowed it whole. Graham Ellsworth kept walking, head down, shoulders hunched, moving fast for a man his age. Not like someone going somewhere, like someone running from something. The sedan was crawling alongside him. The driver had the window down, calling out to him. Graham ignored him. He kept walking, away from the car, away from everything. Denise pushed harder. Her lungs burned. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. A packet of instant noodles and a banana. Her legs were heavy from 35 miles on the bike earlier that day. Her jacket was soaked through in seconds. But she didn't stop. The gap was closing. 40 meters, 30, 20. The sedan driver spotted her in the side mirror, a young black woman sprinting through the rain toward his boss, and stepped out of the car, alert, cautious. "Sir, you dropped something!" This time, Graham heard. He stopped, turned. Under the streetlight, rain streaming down his face, he saw her. A young black woman, soaked, breathing hard, hand raised, palm open, not threatening, just a girl in the rain. "You dropped this," she was gasping between words. "In the store. It fell out of your coat." She opened her hand. The velvet pouch. She loosened the drawstring and let the necklace slide into view. Diamonds caught the streetlight and scattered it into the rain like tiny sparks. Graham's eyes locked onto the necklace. His hand went to his inner pocket. Empty. The blood left his face. He stepped forward. 1 step, 2, and reached for the necklace with both hands. Trembling. Both hands trembling. He took it. Held it against his chest with both palms. Closed his eyes. Pressed it there like he was trying to push it back into his heartbeat. And then he whispered something. One word, so quiet the rain almost buried it. "Denise." She blinked. "What?" He opened his eyes, looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. The streetlight was behind her, but enough of it hit her face, her eyes, brown, amber-flecked, slightly upturned at the corners, long lashes. Graham stared, and something broke behind his expression. Not sadness, something bigger, something older. His whole body went rigid. He looked away, sharply, suddenly, turning his face toward the car like he'd been slapped. The driver stepped closer. "Mr. Ellsworth? Sir, are you all right?" Graham didn't answer. He was gripping the necklace so hard his knuckles had gone white. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were wet, and not from the rain. Denise stepped back, gave him space. She didn't understand what was happening, but she understood pain when she saw it. She'd seen enough of it in enough foster homes to recognize it in any language, on any face. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need me to call someone?" Graham took a deep breath, then another. Slowly, he turned back to face her. His composure returned, but barely. Like a dam holding back a river with cracks spreading across its face. "I'm fine." His voice was wrecked. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. It looked important. It's the most important thing I own." Beat. He looked at her again. This time he held her gaze, and Denise felt it. Something in the way he looked at her that wasn't normal. Not creepy, not threatening, just searching. Like he was looking for something specific in her face and was terrified of finding it. "What's your name?" he asked. "Denise. Denise Nelson." Silence. Long silence. The kind that makes the rain sound louder. The driver looked at Graham. Graham didn't blink. He repeated her name, slowly, carefully, like he was holding something made of glass. "Denise." She shifted on her feet, uncomfortable now. "Yeah, and I noticed, actually, there's a name on the necklace, too. Also says Denise." She let out a small, awkward laugh. "Funny coincidence." Graham didn't laugh. He looked down at the necklace in his hand, turned the pendant over. The engraved name caught the light. Then he looked back up at her, straight into her eyes. And behind his, Denise couldn't name it, there was a storm. "It's not a coincidence," he said quietly. Then he shook his head, correcting himself. "I mean, that name belongs to someone very important. Someone I—" He stopped, swallowed, started again. "Someone I've been looking for." Denise didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. "Well, I hope you find her." She had no idea what she'd just said. No idea at all. Graham reached into his coat, pulled out a wallet, started to take out bills. $100 bills, several of them. "Please, let me give you something. Anything." Denise stepped back, physically stepped back, hands up. "No, no, sir. I didn't do it for money." "I know you didn't. That's exactly why I want to—" "It's yours. I just gave it back. That's what anyone would do." "That's not what anyone would do." His voice broke on the word anyone. "Most people would have kept it. You know what this is worth?" "Doesn't matter what it's worth. It's not mine." Graham stared at her. 3 seconds. But inside those 3 seconds, there were 26 years of looking. 26 years of wondering. 26 years of a name he carried on a chain and couldn't say out loud. "At least, take this." He pulled out a business card. White, heavy cardstock, gold embossed lettering. He held it out. "If you ever need anything, anything at all, anytime." Denise took it. The rain made it hard to read. She could make out a name, Graham, and a phone number. Nothing else. "Thank you, sir. Get home safe." She turned, started jogging back toward Quick Stop, the rain hammering her shoulders, her sneakers splashing through puddles. Graham stood on the sidewalk watching her go. The driver held an umbrella over him, but Graham didn't move under it. He just stood there, in the rain, watching the girl disappear into the dark. He looked down at the necklace, the name, Denise. Then he looked up, at the street sign on the corner, just barely visible through the rain. Davis Avenue. Davis. Lorraine Davis. He closed his eyes. "Get me Raymond Scott on the phone," he said. "Now!" She went home that night and forgot about it. Wrote a letter to her mom and fell asleep. But Graham Ellsworth? He didn't sleep at all. because the moment he got in that car, he made a phone call that would set everything in motion. But first, Denise. She walked back into Quick Stop, dripping wet. Janelle was behind the counter, eyes wide. "Girl, where did you go? You look like you jumped in a pool." "Some guy dropped a necklace. I ran out to give it back." Janelle leaned forward. "A necklace? What kind of necklace?" "Diamond, I think." "Diamond? Like real diamonds? How much was it worth?" Denise shrugged, pulled her wet jacket off and hung it on the hook in the back. "No idea. Doesn't matter." Janelle stared at her like she'd just said the earth was flat. Girl, you're telling me you held a diamond necklace in your hand at 2 a.m. and just gave it back? To a stranger?" "It wasn't mine, Janelle." "You're insane." "Maybe." That was it. That was all she said about it. She didn't tell Martha. She didn't post about it. She didn't even think about it again for the rest of her shift. She just changed into the dry t-shirt she kept in the employee locker, went back behind the register, and finished her shift like it was any other night. But before she clocked out at 6 a.m., she remembered the business card. She pulled it from her wet jacket pocket. Damp, slightly warped, but the gold-embossed letters were still legible. Graham Ellsworth, chairman and founder. Ellsworth and Cole. A phone number, an email, nothing else. She didn't Google it. She was too tired. Her eyes were burning. Her feet ached. She just slid the card into her notebook, right between last night's letter to her mother and a sketch of a jacket collar, and closed it. She walked home in the early morning light, up the stairs, into the basement apartment. Hot shower. The water lasted 4 minutes before it went cold. She stood under it the whole time, eyes closed, brain empty. Then she lay down, opened the notebook one last time, and wrote, "Mom, something weird happened tonight. I found a necklace in the store, diamonds, and on the back, it had my name on it. Denise. Same spelling, same everything. I gave it back to the man who dropped it. He cried. I don't know why. Life is strange sometimes." She closed the notebook, set her alarm for 10 a.m., and slept. Now, Graham. In the back seat of the sedan, still parked on Davis Avenue, Graham Ellsworth hadn't moved. The necklace was in his palm. The driver had turned off the engine. Rain drummed on the roof. The car smelled like wet cashmere and silence. Graham picked up his phone, called Raymond Scott. It rang twice. "Raymond, I need you to reopen a file." Silence on the other end. Raymond knew which file. There was only one file Graham had ever asked him to close. The Denise file? Her name is Denise Nelson, approximately 25 or 26 years old. She works at a convenience store, Quick Stop, on Davis Avenue, Atlanta. Raymond paused. "Graham, we searched for 2 years. Every lead went cold. You told me to shut it down. You said, 'I know what I said.' What changed?" Graham looked at the necklace, turned it over. The engraved name caught the dome light of the sedan. "Her eyes, Raymond." "What?" "She has Lorraine's eyes." Another pause, longer this time. "I'll make some calls." Graham hung up, leaned his head back against the leather seat, stared at the ceiling. The driver waited, said nothing, knew better. Outside, Davis Avenue was quiet. The rain was slowing. The Quick Stop sign buzzed in the distance, red and white neon flickering slightly. And somewhere inside that store, tucked between a letter to a dead mother and a sketch of a jacket collar, a business card was drying, holding 2 worlds on the same page that didn't know they were connected. Not yet. Within 48 hours, Graham Ellsworth knew everything about Denise Nelson. And every single detail, every line in that report, made him more certain that the girl behind the register was the daughter he'd stopped looking for. Raymond Scott worked fast. Public records, foster care archives, access through a family law attorney with the right clearances, basic background checks, social media, almost non-existent. No Instagram, no Twitter. One abandoned Facebook account with a profile picture from 4 years ago. The report came back in a manila envelope. Graham opened it at his desk in his Atlanta penthouse. Lights off, just the glow of the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He read it line by line. Denise Nelson. Born March 15th, Atlanta, Georgia. Mother, Lorraine Davis. Deceased, lung cancer 5 years ago. Never married. Father, no name on the birth certificate. The line for father was blank. Entered foster care at age 2. 4 placements, no adoption. Aged out at 18. No college degree, no criminal record, no debt, because nobody would give her credit. Current employment, cashier at Quick Stop, freelance food delivery. Estimated annual income, approximately $22,000. Graham set the paper down, picked it back up, read one line again. Born March 15th. He counted backward. March, February, January, December, November, October, September, August, July, June. June. 26 years ago. Savannah. A charity gala at the Beaumont Hotel. A woman in a green dress. Lorraine Davis. One night. One conversation that turned into something more. And then, nothing. He flew back to New York. She never called. He never called. Life moved on. 9 months later, March 15th, a baby girl was born. And he never knew. Graham stared at the page, then at the necklace on his desk, then at the only photograph he had of Lorraine, pulled from the old file, grainy, taken from the gala's event photographer. A woman in a green dress, smiling, brown eyes, amber-flecked, slightly upturned at the corners. The same eyes he'd seen 2 nights ago in the rain. He picked up the phone. Raymond, arrange a DNA test. Use the cup she drank from at the store. Your team collected it from the trash after she threw it away. Public space, legally clean. Already in process, results in 72 hours. And Raymond, yes? Don't tell Victor. He hung up, set the phone down, leaned back. Victor, his son, his legitimate, publicly acknowledged, legally recognized son. Vice President of Ellsworth and Cole. Victor didn't know he had a sister. And when he found out, Graham knew, things were going to get very complicated. But that was a problem for later. Right now, the only thing that mattered was a piece of paper arriving in 72 hours. And then, exactly 1 week after the night in the rain, when Denise was standing behind the register like every other Thursday night, the door opened again. But this time, the man who walked in wasn't buying water. Thursday, 9:30 p.m., 30 minutes before Denise's shift started. She'd just arrived, apron half-tied, hair still damp from the bike ride over. Janelle was restocking the candy aisle. Martha was behind the counter, doing inventory on a clipboard. The chime rang. 3 people walked in. First, a man in a gray blazer, silver hair, tall, composed. Graham Ellsworth. But not the Graham from last week. That Graham was drunk, broken, stumbling in the rain. This Graham was upright, deliberate, every step measured. Behind him, a woman in a charcoal suit carrying a leather briefcase. And behind her, Raymond Scott, holding a manila folder. Martha looked up from her clipboard. Janelle froze mid-reach, a box of Skittles in her hand. The store suddenly felt very small. Graham's eyes found Denise. He stopped. Hello, Denise. Denise recognized him immediately. The man from the rain, the cashmere coat, the trembling hands. But here, under the fluorescent lights of Quick Stop, surrounded by chip racks and energy drinks, he looked like he belonged to a different universe. You're the man from last week. The necklace. That's right. You found me? I did. Martha stepped forward, clipboard down, shoulders square. Who are you? And what do you want with my employee? Graham looked at Martha, not dismissive, respectful. Ma'am, my name is Graham Ellsworth. I need 10 minutes with Denise, in private. I promise you. I mean her no harm. Martha didn't move. She looked at Denise. Denise looked at Graham, at the woman with the briefcase, at Raymond, at the manila folder. It's okay, Martha, I'll talk to him. Martha's jaw tightened. Back room. I'm standing outside the door. The back room of Quick Stop was not designed for this conversation. Plastic chair, flickering neon light, shelves stacked with inventory, ramen boxes, paper towels, cases of soda. A billionaire sitting on a folding chair across from a cashier in an apron, surrounded by instant noodles. Graham placed the business card on the table between them, the same one he'd given her in the rain, now laminated. "You never called," he said. "I didn't think you were serious." "I'm always serious." Denise folded her arms. Not hostile, guarded. "Mr. Ellsworth, I looked you up. After that night. Ellsworth and Cole. 60 stores worldwide. I know who you are now. So, respectfully, what are you doing in a Quick Stop on Davis Avenue at 9:30 on a Thursday?" Graham leaned forward, hands clasped, and for the first time since walking in, his composure cracked. Just slightly, just enough. "I need to tell you something, Denise, and I need you to hear all of it before you respond." She nodded, slowly. 26 years ago, I met a woman at a charity event in Savannah. Her name was Lorraine Davis. Denise's expression didn't change. The name meant nothing to her. Not yet. In the foster care system, her original records were sealed. She'd never seen her birth mother's name, but the last name, Davis, that she recognized. That was the name on her original birth certificate. The name she carried before her last foster family changed it to Nelson. "Davis," she said quietly. "That was my birth name." Graham nodded. He continued. "Lorraine and we had a brief relationship. One weekend. I went back to New York. We lost contact. I didn't know she was pregnant. She never told me. She gave birth to a baby girl on March 15th. She named that baby—" He stopped, looked at Denise. "She named her Denise." The room went very still. The fluorescent light buzzed. Somewhere in the store, a cooler hummed. Outside the door, Martha stood motionless, one hand over her mouth. Denise stared at him, her lips parted. No sound came out. "When the baby was 2 years old," Graham continued, voice barely holding, "Lorraine got sick. She couldn't care for her daughter anymore. The baby was placed into foster care. Lorraine never recovered. She passed away 5 years ago. Lung cancer." He paused, steadied himself. "But before she died, she wrote a letter, through her lawyer, addressed to me. It was the first time in 21 years, that I learned I had a daughter." Denise's hands were flat on the table, pressing down, like she was trying to keep the room from tilting. "I hired people to find her. For 2 years. Every lead went nowhere. She changed her last name. She had no social media, no fixed address, nothing. And eventually," his voice cracked. He looked down. "Eventually I gave up. I stopped looking. I buried the name. I couldn't say it, couldn't hear it. I had the necklace made, her name engraved on it, and I wore it every day, as a punishment, as a reminder of the daughter I failed." He reached into his jacket, pulled out the manila folder, opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper. He slid it across the table. DNA test results. 99.98% match. Graham Ellsworth, biological father. Denise looked at the paper, looked at Graham, looked at the necklace, now around his neck, the pendant resting against his chest. Her name on his chest for 5 years. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she didn't hug him. She sat very still on the plastic chair in the back room of a convenience store and said, very quietly, "For 26 years, I thought nobody was looking for me." Graham's face collapsed. I was looking and I gave up. And that is the greatest regret of my entire life." Silence. Long, heavy. The fluorescent light flickered once. Then Denise said, "How do I know this is real?" Raymond stepped forward, opened the briefcase. Documents, birth records, Lorraine's letter, the sealed foster care file, now legally unsealed, the DNA chain of custody report, everything. Denise looked at the pile, then back at Graham. "You came to a convenience store at 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday to tell me you're my father." "Yes." And last week, when I handed you that necklace, you already suspected. The moment I saw your eyes, they're your mother's eyes. Denise pressed her palms harder into the table, breathed, in, out, in, out. Outside the door, Martha had both hands over her mouth, tears running silently down her face. But Graham didn't come to Quick Stop just to say, "I'm your father." He came with a plan that, if Denise said yes, wouldn't just change her life. It would rewrite the last 26 years of his. Denise sat in that plastic chair for a long time, eyes on the table, processing. The fluorescent light kept buzzing. The world outside kept moving. But inside that back room, between the ramen boxes and the paper towels, time had stopped. Finally, she looked up. "What do you want from me?" Graham shook his head. "Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I'm here because I owe you something. Not because you returned the necklace. Because I owe you 26 years. He leaned forward. "I'm not here to save you, Denise. You don't need saving. You work 2 jobs. You live alone. You've survived things that would have broken most people. You're the furthest thing from someone who needs rescuing." He paused. "I'm here because you deserved a father, and you didn't get one. And I can't go back and fix that. But I can stop pretending that money and guilt are the same thing as showing up. So, I'm showing up. Late. Embarrassingly late. But I'm here." Denise said nothing, just listened. Raymond opened the briefcase. Inside, a folder. Not the DNA results this time, a different folder, thicker. Graham slid it across the table. "This isn't charity," he said. "This is what should have been yours all along." Denise opened the folder. 3 sections, each one tabbed and labeled. Section 1, Education. A full scholarship to the Savannah College of Art and Design. Fashion design program. 4 years. Tuition, books, housing, living expenses, all covered. Estimated total value, $160,000. Graham explained, "My team found something during the background check. A post you made on Craigslist 3 years ago. You were looking for second-hand fashion design textbooks. In the message you wrote, and I'm quoting, 'I'm saving up for SCAD.' That was 3 years ago." Denise's face changed. Not a lot, but enough. That Craigslist post, she'd forgotten about it completely. She'd been looking for a pattern-making textbook. She found one for $12. The seller was a SCAD graduate who'd moved to California. They exchanged 3 messages. Denise never told anyone about it. It was a quiet, private, almost invisible moment of hope. And somehow, it had traveled across 3 years and landed on this table. "I contacted the admissions office," Graham continued. "They're willing to review a special application based on your portfolio, your sketches, if you're willing to share them." Denise's hand went to her pocket. Instinct, where she always kept the folded sketches. The ones Janelle called fire. The ones she always said weren't good enough. Section 2, Stability. A 2-bedroom apartment in Savannah. Prepaid. 2 years of rent. Safe neighborhood. 10-minute walk to campus. And a savings account in Denise's name. $50,000. Managed by Raymond Scott under a trust structure. Not spending money. A safety net. "I'm not giving you cash to burn," Graham said. "I'm giving you time. Time to stop delivering food on a bicycle for 12 hours a day. Time to stop standing behind a register until 6 a.m. Time to actually live the life you've been sketching in that notebook." Denise looked at him. Her eyes were wet now. She hadn't blinked in a long time. Section 3, Legacy. Graham's voice dropped. This was the hard part. The part he'd practiced and still couldn't get right. "I'm changing my will. Legally. Formally. You will be recognized as my daughter. Equal legal standing with Victor. Full inheritance rights. Equal share." He held up a hand before she could speak. "I'm not asking you to call me Dad. You have every right to hate me. I was absent for 26 years. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know. And then when I did know, I gave up looking. Both of those are on me. But legally, on paper, in every courtroom and every boardroom, you are my daughter, and you will never be invisible in any system again." Denise sat still for a long time, Then she asked one question, quiet, steady, the most important question she'd ever asked anyone. If I hadn't found that necklace, would you have ever looked for me again? Graham didn't flinch, didn't soften it, didn't dress it up. I don't know, probably not. I'd given up, Denise, completely. You're the one who found me, even though you didn't know it. Denise nodded, slowly. Not forgiving, not yet, but not refusing either. I need time. You have as much time as you need. And I'm not calling you Dad. I know. Not yet. Graham blinked. Those two words, not yet, hit him harder than anything else she'd said. Because not yet meant maybe, and maybe was more than he deserved. Later that night, after Graham and Raymond and the woman in the suit had left, Martha walked into the back room. Denise was still sitting in the plastic chair, staring at the folder, hands in her lap. Martha didn't say a word. She just pulled up the other plastic chair, sat down next to Denise, and took her hand. They sat in silence for a long time. Two women in a back room full of ramen and paper towels, one who had raised herself, one who had watched her do it. Martha? Yeah, baby. Is this real? Martha squeezed her hand. It's real. Outside, the quick stop sign buzzed. Red and white neon, Davis Avenue, named after a woman nobody remembered. Except now, somebody did. 8 months later, if you asked anyone on Davis Avenue about Denise Nelson, they wouldn't say, the cashier at Quick Stop. They'd tell you a story. And then they'd point at the newspaper clipping taped to Martha Coleman's window. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind, just a little, and watch everything change. The decision. Denise said yes. Not that night. Not the next day. She took 2 weeks. She talked to Martha. She talked to Janelle. She sat alone in her basement apartment and stared at the mood board on her wall. The magazine cutouts, the fabric swatches, the sketches. And she asked herself one question. If Mom were here, what would she tell me to do? She opened her notebook, flipped to a random letter. Mom, I saw a dress in a magazine today. I could make that. I know I could. I just need a chance. She called Graham the next morning. I'll do it. SCAD, first day. Denise walked through the front doors of the Savannah College of Art and Design on a Tuesday in January. She was wearing a dress she made herself, sewn by hand in her basement apartment from fabric she bought at a thrift store for $8. Black, simple, clean lines, a fold at the wrist that she'd been sketching at Quick Stop the night everything started. Janelle drove her to Savannah, cried the entire way. I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I'm right. I told you one shot was all you needed. The apartment, 2 bedrooms, clean walls, working heat, a shower with hot water that didn't stop after 4 minutes. Denise stood under it the first morning for 10 minutes straight. She didn't wash her hair. She didn't soap up. She just stood there, eyes closed, water running over her face, and cried. Not sad tears, just release. 26 years of cold showers and plastic chairs and being nobody's daughter and aging out of systems and delivering food in the rain and sketching dresses at 2 a.m. behind a register. All of it. Leaving her body through hot water and steam and silence. Month 3. Her pattern-making professor called her sketches rare intuition. Denise stayed late in the studio every night. She was behind, years behind, compared to students who'd had art classes and summer camps and parents who bought them sewing machines for Christmas. But she worked harder than anyone, because she knew what the alternative looked like. She'd lived it. Graham and Denise, the slow rebuild. They met every 2 weeks. Dinner. Awkward at first. Graham didn't know how to talk to a 26-year-old daughter he'd never raised. Denise didn't know how to trust a man who said, I'll be here, when no adult in her life had ever stayed. Month 1. Silence filled the gaps. Month 2. They talked about food. Month 3. Graham told her about Lorraine. What he remembered. The green dress. Her laugh. The way she tilted her head when she listened. Month 4. Graham gave Denise the photograph. The only one he had of Lorraine. Taken at the Savannah Gala, 26 years ago. A woman in a green dress, smiling, brown eyes, amber-flecked, slightly upturned at the corners. Denise held the photograph for a long time, the first time she'd ever seen her mother's face. "She's beautiful. You look exactly like her." Denise put the photo down, looked at Graham, and said, for the first time, "Thank you, Dad."
Graham cried.
Second time Denise had seen it. First time was in the rain. This time was in sunlight. Victor, Graham's legitimate son, resisted. Hard. He hired his own lawyer, demanded a second DNA test. Results came back identical. He refused to meet Denise for 4 months. But at SCAD's end-of-semester showcase, Victor showed up. Back row, arms crossed. He watched Denise present her first collection, inspired by the letters she wrote to her mother. The theme, letters never sent. He left without speaking, but the next day he sent a text. "Good collection, congratulations." 4 words, but it was a door, cracked open just barely. The Ripple. Sandra Moore, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, published a feature. The name on the necklace. It went national, shared over 300,000 times. Graham established the Lorraine Davis Foundation, scholarships for foster care youth pursuing arts and design education. 15 recipients per year, $40,000 each. Martha Coleman taped the newspaper article to Quick-Stop's front window. Below it, she hung a photo of Denise. Handwritten sign. "Best employee I ever had. She quit to go to college." And Janelle Brooks? Graham funded her nursing school tuition, a dream she'd buried 3 years ago. Unburied now, just like a name on a necklace. But there's one more thing. One detail Denise didn't discover until 10 months after that night at Quick-Stop. A detail that made her finally understand, fully, completely, what happened in the rain. Raymond Scott called her on a Wednesday afternoon. He had something to deliver. A small cardboard box, Lorraine's personal belongings. The few things her mother had left behind when she died. The lawyer had held them for 5 years, waiting for next of kin to be identified. Denise sat on the floor of her Savannah apartment, opened the box. Inside, a worn Bible with a cracked spine, a silver cross on a thin chain, a small photo album, mostly empty, just a handful of pictures. Lorraine as a young woman, Lorraine in a hospital bed, Lorraine holding a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. Denise touched the photo. A baby. Her. And at the bottom of the box, an envelope, sealed. Her mother's handwriting on the front. "For my daughter, Denise, when she's ready." Denise's hands trembled. She opened it slowly, carefully, like the paper might dissolve if she moved too fast. Inside, a single page. The handwriting was shaky, written by a woman who was running out of time. "Denise, my baby. I named you Denise because it means the one who chases joy. I chose that name because I wanted you to always be happy, even though I couldn't be there to make sure. I'm sorry for everything. Your father is a good man. He just didn't know you existed. Don't be angry with him. And don't be angry with me. I loved you, from the first day to the last day, and long after the last day." Denise read it 3 times. Then she folded the letter and opened her notebook, the one with the fake leather cover, the one she'd carried since she was 18, the one filled with letters to a mother who never answered. She placed Lorraine's letter on the final page, right next to Graham's business card, right next to a sketch of the first dress she ever designed. 3 things on the same page: mother, father, dream. That night she called Graham, first time she'd ever called him first. "Mom wrote me a letter. She said, 'Don't be angry with you.'" Silence on the line, a long one. "Are you angry?" "No, I wish she could see this." "She can, somehow. I believe she can." Denise looked out the window. Savannah at night. Warm air, oak trees, Spanish moss catching the streetlight. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for never throwing the necklace away." "I never would have. Even when I buried the name, I never let go of the necklace." That night, Denise put it on. The diamond necklace, her name against her chest, right above her heart. For the first time, it was exactly where it belonged. She opened the notebook, wrote one final line. "Mom, I found Dad," or "He found me, because of the name you gave me." She closed the notebook, and for the first time in 8 years, she didn't need to write another letter. And that's the story of a necklace, a name, and a girl who ran through the rain at 2 a.m., not for money, not for reward, not for anything, just because it was the right thing to do. She didn't know she was chasing her father. She didn't know her name was hanging around his neck. She didn't know that one act of kindness would unbury a name, rebuild a family, and open every door she'd been sketching behind a register at 3 a.m.